Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. Team number 5. We're getting close to the halfway point. We're going to start off with the Iowa Barnstormers tonight. And it's kind of a work in progress. Iowa has kind of been on a downturn in the recent years, and you're just hoping that they can actually get something together this season and make a push towards the playoffs. We got everything to look at, from the players to the schedule to anything and everything. If you've seen the previews before, it's literally just the same. If this is your first time watching, well, welcome in. So with that being said, let's take a look at our team information and start piecing some stuff together. All right, so the Iowa Barnstormers, the legacy team, going all the way back to the 90s, just like the Arizona Rattlers. And this is a team that, when you think of indoor or arena football, this is one of the teams you think of. Kurt Warner, Super Bowl champ, MVP, obviously played an arena football league here with the Barnstormers. So yeah, more of the same. Located in Des Moines, Iowa. They play in the Wells Fargo Arena, and I know I mentioned this in the last team preview last year. Wells Fargo Arena, Des Moines, Iowa, Wells Fargo Center, Philadelphia. So it's easy to get some of those confused. It's kind of here in Kansas City. T-Mobile Center is here in KC, but the T-Mobile Arena is out in Vegas. So I get it. It can get confusing sometimes. Capacity of 15,181. Their head coach is Dave Mogensen. They have one championship to claim all the way back in 2018, and their last 5 seasons, under 500, so a little underwhelming when you consider the last 2 years can't even break 500, fairly under it as well. 2021, they still made the playoffs with a 6-6 record, but it's just been kind of middling since their championship run all the way back in 2018, and there were not a lot of teams back then either. So Iowa does have their work cut out for them here. Here's hoping though: 3-13 in 2023, 5-11 in 2024. So a 2-game increase there. We saw what happened with Green Bay, just kind of inching closer and closer for them. Eventually, they broke out and went 13-3. So here's hoping that a little bit more can be done with the Barnstormers this season or in the coming seasons, to where they can actually get some things turned around here, make a run at the playoffs, and maybe surprise some people. So with that, we got to talk their schedule, their players, everything along those lines. Let's go take a look. All right, so schedule popping up as it does. Iowa plays one Western Conference opponent. And I've had this gripe, I talked about it a little bit in the Green Bay preview. I would like to see a little bit more cross-conference travel. And I know sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's all based on money. I get it. But, I mean, in an ideal world, you'd play your home and aways for everyone in your conference, depending on how many teams are there. Let's say what it is right now with 14, you play home and home, that's 12. And then maybe play a couple of teams 3 times, and I don't know, maybe do a home and home like Green Bay does with Arizona this year. I'd like to see a little bit like that, so you get some travel and some more consistency with East going West or West going East. But anyway, enough of that gripe. Looking at Iowa's schedule, they start off 3 games back-to-back against Quad City after the game against Green Bay, so that'll be fun. And then bye week, 5 games bye week, and then they finish with 8 straight games. That's going to be almost a brutal stretch there. Again, we have to kind of piece together a little bit of, or at least taper our expectations of what Iowa is going to be. I'm not sold that they are a playoff team. I don't know if they're going to be vying for a playoff spot. They did surprise a little bit. They played some games close. I look back at that Arizona Iowa game. I think it was 49-42. Arizona won it, and that was a game that Iowa could win. So there were some games there where Iowa, and you look at games like Kyle Kaplan kicking that game-winning field goal in Quad City, there are some games like that where Iowa kind of just snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. You know, if there's just a couple of breaks go the other way, Iowa could actually have a way better record than what it is. Add on to it all the injuries that happened to the quarterback position, all the different quarterbacks that they played. There you go. So piecing back to the schedule here, you, just like everyone else, I know it's kind of cliche at this point, but you have to start out hot. You have to surprise some teams here. You have to go into Green Bay week 1, and you have to beat them. You have to get that momentum going. If you don't, then you at least need to sweep Quad City before your bye week. You need to go into that second bye week 2-1 at least. Whether you beat Quad City, split the series, whatever, or you beat Green Bay, whatever the case could be, you have to at least be above 500 for that. If you go 0-3, I'm sorry, I'm counting you out. There's pressure here. There's pressure here. This is a legacy team. They need it. Other than that, the second go around here, Fishers, Jacksonville, at Tulsa, home against Green Bay, and then home against Tulsa. Kind of more of the same here. It's not that you need to start hot, but if you get that hot start, you can kind of not coast, but know where you're at. We know Jacksonville's going to be tough. We know Green Bay is going to be tough. Quad City with DeQuan Neal and some other key players coming in, they're looking to maintain their playoff status. Massachusetts, more of the same from them as well. So for Iowa, it comes down to, can you catch some teams at the right time? Simple as that. Let's go take a look at the roster, because every team needs players, and see what we got there. All right, so roster popping up here. We're going to go position by position. Let's start it off. It's kind of an elephant in the room here. We know the quarterback position was not up to snuff last season for the Iowa Barnstormers. They went through, 4 or 5 different quarterbacks. Daniel Smith, Kyle King, Darius James Peterson, Brandon Alt. There might have been one more in there, Jarius Grissom, things like that. So, they went through quite a few quarterbacks last year. They have signed Malik Mitchell. They've got Malik Mitchell from the Tucson Sugar Skulls in a trade, and if he is the quarterback, if he is QB1, because I'm not sure if he is officially signed, he's traded, but if he is QB1, then look out. I'm doing this as if he is quarterback 1. So we will see. But if he is, that is a good dynamic. When you look back at Darius James Peterson a few years ago before he tore his ACL, I believe, he was a really good dual threat style quarterback. And again, dual threat quarterbacks in this league, they are the bread and butter. You can have a pocket passer, you can have a pure scrambler, like an option style, but dual threat is where it's at. Malik Mitchell checks those boxes. I think he played half the season in Tucson last year. There might have been some behind-the-scenes stuff. Don't care. But anyway, that's how it goes. If it's not him, Niall McLaughlin and Joaquin Collazo are there to take the reins. They're rookies. We'll see what happens there. They don't have a designated running back. Hunter Clayson is a running back wide receiver hybrid kind of guy. Think like a David Elder last season with Northern Arizona. More of your kind of, hey, we'll do jet sweeps, but we'll see, and kind of that line. So if that's the case, I truly think they need to get a running game going. They didn't really have much of one last season. They had, Paul Garrett and Rob Washington, and Washington got hurt a little ways through the season. So again, injuries plaguing this team. Here's where they do have quite a bit of a good thing going for him. Keyshawn Taylor is re-signed. Kean Williams is re-signed, and they need him desperately. The offense will go through him if everything goes according to plan. He is a lightning bolt. Shaq Currington comes back from the AFL. He was with the Green Bay Blizzard for a year or two, and I think he played for the Nashville Cats in the AFL last year. And then we've got some size. DeAndre Wallace, 6'5". Tom Butters, 6'5", 245. That's a big boy. It's almost offensive lineman. Geez, it's like a tight end style. James Jones at the very bottom out of New Mexico State, 6'4", 245. Again, they're looking for some big bodies that can bully their way around. And then you've got some speedsters like Currington and Williams, Keyshawn Taylor as well. So it's like you've kind of got this dynamic of what you kind of want to do. Here's an issue. Your offensive line's gone. Joe Bastante is retired. Christopher Strotter's gone. And I'm blanking on, is it Brayon Gaddy? Yeah, I think he's the one that got traded over to Tucson with Malik Mitchell coming back, if I'm not mistaken. Or there was another trade. Tucson and Iowa have traded quite a bit. Anyway, they do sign Paul Fay over from Quad City. I believe he had some accolades a couple seasons ago. I think he might have made all-rookie team. If not, that was Joe Crowell. I think it was Crowell. But anyway, Paul Fay comes over from Quad City, and then they've got some rookies coming through with Desmond Besnett, Maurice Campbell, and Rodney Luckett. So might have their work cut out for him on the offensive line here. You got to be able to protect. I've been saying that for almost every preview, and I'll say it again. I don't know how these defensive rules are going to work. Maybe the rookies show out. Maybe it's better for them, more natural like the outdoor game. I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens there. On the defensive side of the ball, Tyler Tate is re-signed, and Earl Valls comes over from the Arizona Rattlers. He only played a couple of games for Arizona, but still the talent there, the experience, it's there. So I'm not saying he's going to be a breakout candidate, but he's got some experience. We'll see if he makes the cut. A lot of rookies on that defensive line as well. Antonio Simley, Patrick Godbolt, Ben Bruton, Rashad Colson, and Gabe Smith. So they've got some size over there too, but only one player over 300 pounds. They might be going more with agility, speed, trying to get that rush end and stuff along those lines. So we'll kind of see what goes on there, but it's a little undersized when it comes to that. Again, I know size doesn't necessarily matter, but that 330-pound Rashad Colson might be able to push your way through. Linebacker position, Ian McBurrow is retired. Keyshawn Jones and Kadri Jackson are your linebackers. We'll see who gets the start for them, who makes the cut along those lines. Just a lot of rookies on this team. Javon France and Jared Saad are back for another season with Iowa. Saad only played 3 or 4 games last year. I think Javon France played most of the season. I think he played all of the season, actually. And then you have quite a bit, again, of rookies. Jaleel Brown, Jamal Martin, Bishop McDonald, Caleb Street, Jonathan Haynes, Xavier Steele, Deverick Daniels, and Isaac Duffy. So, with that, we go down to your special teams player of the year last year, Gabriel Rui. He's back for another season. You might need to rely on him a little bit when it comes to deuces and when it comes to points, and the good news is he can hit them. He's fairly accurate with it. A lot of players on the non-active or other side. Devin Hayes is with the CFL. Amir Ripe is with the UFL. Rob Washington is activated IR, which again, I still have not gotten an answer if that means he's signed or if he's just activated. A couple of guys on injured reserve. Jake Jackson, Xavier Steele, which, hey, look, Xavier Steele's on there twice. So he's actually suspended. So he's not actually in there. So yeah, he's suspended. And then James Patterson has refused to report. So with that, there is your roster. Let's go take a look at the impact players on said roster, and then we will move on. All right. Key signings, re-signings, and key departures. We're going to start it off with the jack of all trades. Kean Williams. What a season he had. 66 catches, 842 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 attempts, 19 yards with 1 touchdown on 6 attempts. Not bad. It's a good ratio. And then 67 kick returns, 1,016 yards, 2 touchdowns in the kicking game. Good enough for second team all indoor football league and all rookie team wide receiver kick returner. So with this, the thing I do want to point out with Kean Williams too, like we alluded to, he did all of this with like 4 or 5 different quarterbacks. Could you imagine the chemistry he could build if you had just one? He could be a very, very, very good talent. He almost had 1,000 yards when you consider Brandon Alt, Kyle King, Daniel Smith, Darius James Peterson. Again, they went through all these different quarterbacks. The dude could be a beast. The dude could be a freaking beast if you have that chemistry. That guy that knows your routes, knows exactly what you're going to do, when your breaks are going to happen, things along those lines. The whole route tree. If you can get that guy, sky's the limit. And that's the reason why I have him here as a key sign-in, is he's back for another year. You think he wants to get in the playoffs? You think he wants to pump up those numbers, be a 1,000-yard receiver? I'm looking forward to it. So, Kean Williams, big name. Glad he's back. Defensive lineman Tyler Tate, 54.5 tackles, 13 for a loss, 2.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and 2 blocked kicks. He didn't get any accolades, but 54 tackles as a defensive lineman. Some guys only got 30, some might have gotten less. Now, the only issue I have with that stat line from last year is the sacks. He had 13 tackles for a loss, but only 2.5 of them were sacks. So he was getting in the backfield. He just was not getting to the quarterback. So I'm hoping this season for Tyler Tate, it's a better season where he can actually attack the quarterback. And that might be along with some injuries that happened, again, to Iowa in their defensive line. I think with Christopher Oakley, who's now with Fishers, and I think they had Akeem Smith for a couple of games as well, amongst anyone else coming through that defensive line. They kind of shuffled through it throughout the season. So if he can be that stalwart, if he can be that guy and really pump up those numbers when you get to the quarterback, I look for a good season for him as well. That defensive line could carry that defense. Finally, for the key re-signings, Gabriel Rui, alluded to it in the roster segment, 2024 Special Teams Player of the Year, first team all indoor football league for the kicker position, 70 of 74 for extra points, 94% accuracy. He will practically not miss. And yeah, when you look at it, 45%, 20 of 44 when it comes to field goals. But again, for people that don't know, the field goal posts, very, very narrow. It's not your standard issue high school, NFL, college, uprights. It's very narrow. So I think anything over 40% for me is a pretty good number when it comes to hitting your field goals in this league. When you consider most of those field goals, or a lot of those field goals, could come from the goal line of your side of the field. So you're just trying to punt that ball, get it, punt that ball. You're not allowed to punt. So punt that ball and just get it, turn the field, flip the field, whatever, play the field position game. So again, if you're over 40%, for me personally, I think that's pretty good. Big number here though, 12 deuces. He has hit 12 deuces last season, which is good for obviously 24 points. So if you can do more of the same this season, the offense can take a step forward. There could be some chances where Iowa could win some games that they might have lost last year. Kind of said that in the very beginning of this video. I really like bringing him back. Keon Williams, if that offense can just take another step, there could be a chance where they could sneak into the playoffs or start making some noise and build some momentum at least. So there we go. Let's talk some key departures. Darren Wilson is in Arizona. 47 catches, 571 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 kick returns, 17 yards. Kind of talked about him a little bit with the Arizona preview. It sucks to see him go, but I think with what Iowa has, Keyshawn Taylor coming back, Shaq Currington, those big bodies that they have in the rookies, Tom Butters, whatever the case could be, that bodes well. So while this is a key departure because you kind of lose that production, you're hoping that Shaq Currington can replace that, or one of these other rookies can come in here and kind of take over in that spot. Linebacker Ian McBurrow, 75 total tackles, 8.5 for a loss, 2.5 sacks, 1 pass breakup. He is retired, if I'm not mistaken, if I saw that on the transactions page right. So the question is going to become who fills that linebacker position, because McBurrow has been there for, I believe, the last 2 seasons, and he has been kind of that veteran leader through that defense. And kind of, I might be completely wrong, but I feel like everything kind of went through him. Like he was the green dot. I don't think they have green dots here, but I feel like he was the green dot for Iowa when it came to the defensive side of the ball. And losing kind of that veteran leadership, you're going to have someone take over that production. Like I said, it's not like he had a bad season, but only 2.5 sacks. He wasn't really blitzing that much as a linebacker, or he just couldn't get to the quarterback with just the 1 pass breakup, no interceptions or anything like that. So very, very tough season, but still 75 tackles is nothing to sneeze at. Finally, Jefferson Fritz, 68 total tackles, 1 for a loss, 1 pick, 5 pass breakups, 28 kick returns, 508 yards returning, and 1 touchdown. This guy at one point was the leading tackler in the IFL for like the first half of the season, or like the first quarter of the season. He did play special teams quite a bit, so he did bump up his tackles in that regard. But just the 1 tackle for a loss, 1 pick, and 5 pass breakups. Looking for a little bit more when it comes to that secondary. He was a very, very good player. And when Keon Williams wasn't returning kicks, Jefferson Fritz was. They both were able to return touchdowns. So we'll see if it's all going to be on Keon Williams' shoulder to return kicks. And we'll see just how well they can replace Jefferson Fritz when it comes to that secondary. Like I said, they had Javon France. They're bringing back Jared Sod. The rest of it's going to deal with the rookie class, the huge rookie class that Iowa is preparing for. So, like I said, key departures. Sucks to lose that production. We'll see what the rookies can do. Let's go take a look at 3 big questions. All right, so 3 big questions. Question number 1. Can the offense thrive under Malik Mitchell? Again, I am under the impression that he is signed and he is ready to go. If he's not, then the question changes. But I'm taking this as he is quarterback number 1 right now. So, can they thrive? Like I just alluded to, if you can just take that 1 extra step. You went 5-11 last year. Some of these games got away from you. Is there an opportunity to win a couple of those games and go possibly 7-9? Yes, you don't make the playoffs. At least not the way that I'm kind of seeing it. But there's an opportunity depending on who beats up on each other, when and where, and depending on if you can catch some teams and how your conference your conference win percentage is, because you only play one team in the West. So a lot of these games are going to be very important. If you can catch some teams at the right time, there is an opportunity for Iowa, in my opinion, that could sneak into the playoffs. I don't necessarily see it, but if Malik Mitchell can build that chemistry, if they can get a designated running game, if he can be the guy that can dictate this offense, I really like what I could see out of Iowa. A lot of question marks for the Barnstormers, but I kind of like what I see with Malik Mitchell, what I have seen from him with Tucson and everything that they were able to accomplish with the Sugar Skulls in that period of time. It was kind of a work in progress for that team last season as well. So he's coming into a situation where a little bit more of the same, but maybe there's a little more structure. I'm not sure. Question number 2. Which rookies step up? I've alluded to this all throughout the video. A lot of rookies. You're probably going to have a lot of rookies on the offensive line. You're going to probably have some rookies on the defensive line. How are those trenches going to work out? Who separates themselves from the pack? That's the reason why we have training camps. You cut the roster down to 25. You're really picking the best of the best here. And again, rosters, fluid. These players could be cut. These players could be signed. There's other players that could be cut from other teams that could be signed, things like that. So we don't have a definitive answer. However, there's going to be players that have an opportunity to make a name for themselves, whether it's a wide receiver, defensive lineman, defensive back, whatever the case could be. One of these guys is going to rise. Just like Kean Williams did last year, one of these guys is going to rise. Simple as that. Question is who? I'm curious to see how it is. I don't have an answer. I haven't seen any of them play. The outdoor game and the indoor game are similar, but very different. So, new rules, new everything. We'll see who kind of rises to that. Number 3, can Iowa make a push to the playoffs this year? I've already said my answer. I do not think so. I'm sorry. I don't think they can. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I just think the East is very tough, and Iowa is towards the bottom. And a lot of rookies signed here. There will be some that have to step up, but I just do not think there's enough talent on this roster. I would love to be proven wrong. Absolutely 100% proven wrong, and I'd be okay with it because I love seeing Iowa do well. I do. When you have legacy teams like Iowa, Jacksonville, Arizona, teams from the 2010s or even before that, where you can recognize these names and say, hey, that's a healthy league. Plus, that adds parity to the league. You know, you're tired of seeing the same teams make the playoffs every year. So if Iowa can make that jump, more power to them. I'd love to be proven wrong, but as of right now, I just have a hard time from the last couple of seasons getting hopes up and saying, hey, this team is definitely a playoff team. So, sucks to say that, but I just do not see it with them right now. I think right now their ceiling is 7-9. I do not think the bottom is going to fall out. They're not going to be 3-13, but I could see anywhere from 7-9, 6-10, kind of 5-11, somewhere in that range right now. Very tippy top, maybe 8-8, but I just have a hard time. It depends on how well Fishers gets going. It depends on if everything gels with Quad City. It depends on, you know, does Jacksonville have the bottom fall out for them like they did last season where they thought everything was going to be good? I don't know. So I have a hard time. It's going to hinge on how well everyone gels. That's how it is for every team. And again, this could be something where it's like Green Bay where you just don't know really what to expect, and then they just rattle off 13 wins. So, like I said, I love to be proven wrong, but for me right now, I got to call a spade a spade. I'm not going to try and pick favorites. I love Iowa. They're my second favorite team behind Quad City, but I just do not see them in a playoff spot right now. So, unfortunately, I do not think they can make a push. If they do, again, love to be proven wrong. But for right now, I think it's just too many rookies filling too many spots. It's going to be a deep learning curve and not a lot of time. There's no preseason to get ready, nothing like that. So that's where I have it. I hate to leave it on a sad note, but we got to wrap it up. All right, so that is it for the Iowa Barnstormers preview. Like I said, I hate to leave it on such a sad note like that, but you got to be realistic. I'm trying to be realistic. People want to pump tires for their teams, and that's perfectly okay. I have no issue with that. People can hate on me, do whatever, perfectly fine. But with that being said, I'm just trying to make sure I can call it how I sees it without getting any sort of bias from any friends or anything like that on the Facebook forums or any pages like that. I love Iowa to death. I do. Dave Mogensen is a cool guy. I've talked to him a couple of times. He means well. I really hope he does turn the ship around because it's awesome to see Iowa in the playoffs. It's awesome to see them win games. It's awesome to see them be successful. They are a legacy team for a reason. There's a reason why a lot of people know the Barnstormers, other than just Kurt Warner. They win. So, like I said, hate to leave it like that, but we do have to wrap things up. I'm trying to keep these about 20 to 30 minutes if I can. So, with that being said, guys, I'm going to take off here. Jacksonville is up next. We will have that preview out tomorrow night, and we just keep on going along. So after Jacksonville and then Massachusetts after that, I believe we are at the halfway point of the previews. So with all that being said, I'm going to take off here, guys. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever you guys want to do. Does not bother me one bit. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. Until then, see you.